The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hello and welcome to Open, the show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world to you. I'm Dorissa White filling in for Darren Jaime, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our borough. Coming up, we'll discuss legal headlines and new laws in New York City with attorney and host of today's verdict, David Lesch. Afterwards, we'll learn more about Radical Health and their upcoming conversation series discussing the impact of drugs, overdoses, and addiction in Mott Haven. Next, we'll find out how the creators of the Hood Cough Management company seeks to support creativity in the hood. After that, we'll speak to author and artist Biodun Abudu about his new literature and art. Then we'll learn more about women of concerned professionals and strategic conscious networking and how they're raising awareness on domestic violence through walks. So stay tuned. All this and much more is headed your way because we're now officially open. Hello everyone, I'm Dorissa White and today is Wednesday, August 28th, and you are now watching Open, a live program bringing the Bronx and New York City straight to you. We also want to welcome our viewers on Manhattan Neighborhood Network as Open is being broadcasted simultaneously on Eminence Channel. You can stay connected with us via Twitter at BronxNet TV and Facebook at Open/BronxNet Television. A lot has been going on through this past week and we'll take you through it with Bronx Updates. Serve Studios hosted a fashion show to raise cancer awareness and empower those who have battled or are currently battling the disease. BronxNet correspondent Nancy Ramirez brings us the story.
Serve Studios, a newly launched company, seeks to promote empowerment, awareness, and philanthropic events, hosted a cancer awareness fashion show for people who have or are currently battling with cancer.
Serve Studios is an event production company that brings creatives together to empower others. That's what Serve is all about. Today we brought designers, we brought videographers, photographers, we brought people of all sorts of creative backgrounds to put on a show.
The models who participated each related to it, being a cancer survivor themselves or having family members who battled the disease.
I hope that they take a lot of information away and that it raises awareness to all of the issues that people go through with their loved ones, friends, and family, honestly.
The fashion show not only spread cancer awareness, but it also highlighted young designers like Adriana.
Well, our line was called Urban Office, and it's very streetwear mixed with office wear attire. So it's a little mixture of that, and it's a little skin showing a little bit. But we wanted to keep it a little conservative on some pieces, but we also wanted it to be more free and street.
The event also included motivational speakers from organizations such as Fit Warriors and Save for Life, who spoke about their experiences and services they provide.
CEO Erica Bennett, she is a cancer survivor herself of leukemia, and whenever she was given the news that she beat cancer, she decided to have a cancer awareness fashion show to raise funds for people of underprivileged neighborhoods.
Erica Bennett also took a moment to send a heartfelt message to those currently diagnosed with cancer.
Oh my God, it's like the most beautiful journey you can go through. It's like it breaks you all the way down, but it builds you all the way back up, and just stay strong. And if I can do it, I'm pretty sure every single cancer patient can do it.
Serve Studios will continue to host events like this to inspire and empower the community by shining awareness on these issues. To follow their events, follow them on Instagram at Surf Studios. Reporting for BronxNet, Nancy Ramirez.
The Department of City Planning invited the public to play a role in imagining how to improve New York's 520 miles of waterfront. BronxNet correspondent Arlene Makoko has the story.
Next stop, Governor's Island. The New York City Department of Planning invited New Yorkers to Nolan Park here to get their views and vision on New York's waterfront over the next 10 years. With 75 miles of shoreline in the Bronx, borough residents are central in this discussion.
There's, Soundview Park, there's the Bronx River, the Harlem River, Pugsley Creek, Helen Bay Park. There's some amazing waterfronts that should be celebrated.
It's called the New York City Comprehensive Waterfront Plan, first released in '92. In the current and upcoming plan, the city is working with groups like the Waterfront Alliance here to create accessible, resilient, and sustainable shorelines in the face of climate change and storm damage. Ferry service was also expanded to include one stop in Soundview.
The whole purpose of today is to start to engage the public about what's happening on the waterfront, and as importantly, what's going to be happening in the future for the waterfront with their ideas at heart.
Michael Morella, Director of Waterfront and Open Space Planning with the New York City Department of City Planning, was also joined by students of Harbor School, a high school located on Governor's Island that trains students for future jobs in the area of environmental protection. Axel Anderegg Durwood is one of those students.
I'm a professional diver and a student at the New York Harbor School, and that's made possible through these CTE programs, career and technical education programs.
The school joined the nonprofit initiative called the Billion Oyster Project, also known as BOP, which looks to restore 1 billion oysters that were destroyed due to Hurricane Sandy in 2012.
One adult oyster can filter up to 50 gallons of water a day, actually 50 plus.
That makes building their numbers critical.
We do a whole variety of tasks to assist them. For example, down there is Pier 101, and off of Pier 101 there is a floating eco dock. And underneath that dock, there is an assortment of large oyster cages that are suspended from the bottom of it. And what we'll do, those cages are very heavy, so sometimes they fall. So an example of one task that I do is I'll go down with my team and we'll tag them with this 25-foot line, and the people on the surface will see it and it will be retrieved on a different day.
The day was about informing on the challenges ahead and how you can be a part of the solution.
At the end of next year, the city is going to be releasing its next comprehensive waterfront plan, looking at all 520 miles of the city's waterfront and our waterways, and making certain that we have a plan for the future.
Meetings in the Bronx are scheduled for the fall and spring. For exact dates, go to nyc.gov. For BronxNet, this is Arlene Makoko.
That's all for Bronx Updates. We have to take a quick break. More open right after this.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made this vacation happen.
Double points with every purchase?
Cleverly merging promotions.
Love it.
Cross-referencing travel sites. And booking all your flights with those...
vouchers. I got us bumped.
They were like, oh. But now they're like... Aloha. You aced this vacation. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
Behold, the angry giant. Behold, the angry giant. Behold, the angry giant. Behold, the angry giant. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Welcome back. New York has recently passed a series of laws, including gun control, with the New York Red Flag Law, vaccinations, vaping, and law concerning CBD oil. What are these laws and how might they affect you? Here to give us more information and provide insight on these topics is attorney and host of today's verdict, David Lesch.
Hi, nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course.
A few things. I know that in the past there have been some discussions here on some of the marijuana laws and the expunging of convictions that have been on the record, and that's still an ongoing process now. And I want to make sure the viewers understood that we're moving to the point, certainly throughout of New York State, that if you have a fairly minor conviction for marijuana, I'm not talking about selling marijuana, it's mostly using marijuana, and you've been either using it in a park, using it outside, those types of convictions, those misdemeanor convictions, will eventually be expunged from your own record, which is important because if you apply for a job or you apply for something, you don't want anything to come up that may hinder your ability to either get the employment or to move on with your career. But that hasn't happened yet. It's on its way, but that has not happened yet, so I wanted to give the viewers a little bit of an update as to where that is going. What I'm here really to discuss today are 4 different laws that have recently been enacted that will affect your constitutional rights and everybody's constitutional rights in New York State.
Okay.
When you're in law school, one of the first classes you take is called constitutional law, and you basically learn in that class that you're constantly balancing 2 different issues. You're balancing the rights, your individual right to do things that you'd like to do, against the state's right to protect its citizens. So, and that it's a constant battle that's going back and forth. You'll see the laws that I'm about to discuss, how the scales are somehow tipping in many ways towards the state. Let's start with the first one that everyone's been discussing, and that's the religious exemptions to vaccines.
Okay. That's been a big conversation too with different religious groups.
Well, the measles have been an epidemic, and it's mostly been in the Orthodox Jewish community because they do not vaccinate their children many times because that's not in the Jewish religion. In certain sects and in other religions as well, they feel that vaccinations are not within the tenets of their own religion. The problem was if you don't vaccinate your child and your child goes to school, yet you're risking 30 kids in a classroom who then can end up with the measles, who may not have been vaccinated yet, or maybe the vaccinations weren't strong enough or didn't take hold yet. So what are you balancing here? You're balancing the individual right, the right of freedom of religion, which is your First Amendment right, against the right of the state to protect all the other students in the classroom. The right of freedom of religion was winning out for decades, but recently it tipped because it was really becoming an epidemic, and it only barely passed this new law, which basically, the law had been that you could opt out. In other words, you don't want to vaccinate your child, you don't have to vaccinate your child, as long as you show there's a religious reason. You could opt out. The law changed that. It's not going to be that way anymore. So you could homeschool your child, but that's the only way you can get around it. You can't go to school anymore. You can't have your child go to school if your child's not vaccinated. The scales tipped. There was a federal lawsuit has also been brought recently that is saying, well, you're really discriminating against the disabled child because the disabled child has a right to be in school and get all the help they need if they're disabled. They can't get that when they're homeschooled.
So what does that mean moving forward? What does this law mean? How is the religious communities, the Orthodox Jewish community taking this?
Well, they're not very happy with it, and that's why the law barely passed. It's a very contentious issue. Many people feel, don't tell me what to do with my child. We don't believe in vaccines. We think it may contribute to things like autism. There's been no scientific proof of that, but don't tell us what to do. It's our child. It's our freedom of religion, First Amendment right. Well, the state says we have rights as well, and we want to protect the community, so sorry for that, and that won out. Okay, let's move into the next one.
Yes.
This one's, I thought it was very interesting. It's the red flag gun laws. I don't know if you want to know what these are.
Yes.
Okay, if you think that a family member, a coworker, or somebody may be a threat to themselves or a threat to you, and they have a gun, a legal gun, you have a right to go to the authorities, let the authorities know, and you can apply for what's called a temporary injunction, a restraining order, preventing them from using their gun until a judge then has a full hearing where you can give testimony. So basically, let's talk about the balancing here. Well, this is your Second Amendment right to bear arms. You know, that's the National Rifle, the NRA. You have a right to bear arms. It's your Second Amendment right. The state says, well, we have a right to protect our citizens from mass shootings, and we have a right to protect family members from people who have mental disease and may take a gun. There's the balance. Usually, the individual wins out, the right to hold a gun. But now, because of all the mass shootings, it's tipping the other way. So you have a question?
Yeah, and New York State, it's not the first to enact this law.
That's right. We're actually a little bit farther behind. I mean, California was one of the first ones, and we're really following suit at this point. So it's very, very important that you know that you have the right now. Schools, police, somebody in your family you might think who has a legal gun, but they're not. They're acting strangely. You think they may be on some kind of medicines that are making them irregular, or something's not really going right in the house. You have a right to go to the authorities and say, look, my dad, my grandfather, my brother, my coworker, they're unhinged, and I know they have a gun. Please issue a temporary restraining order, seizing their weapons. And you can do this without them even knowing. You don't even tell them. This can all be done without their knowledge. Then from 3 to 6 days after the restraining order, there's a full hearing because they have a right to get their guns back, and then they can give evidence. Okay, last one. I don't have much time. Let's talk about a little about vaping. That's a big one. All right?
That is huge. It's very popular.
They just raised the age from 18 to 21. Now you say, well, is that really fair? When you're 18, you can vote. When you're 18, you could be drafted and shoot a gun and go to war. Who are you to tell me that I can't vape until I'm 21 years old? They also raised the smoking age to 21. Well, again, it's the balancing. Your individual right, yes, you have a right to do what you want to do to your body, when you're 18 years old, but you're going to make yourself sick. You can get early detections of cancer. You can get addicted. And what happens? You end up in our emergency rooms, and we end up paying for it as a society. It tipped. Okay? So when we're talking about these types of laws, it's always the balance, the constitutional balance of your individual rights against society's right to protect the community. And it's always a tricky thing as an attorney because you really want to be able to argue both sides. And all these laws, you have arguments on both sides.
Right.
If you're 18, you should be able to vape when you think about it because it's your own body. But it's similar to like the seatbelt law. Why should I have to wear a seatbelt? Well, because if you don't, you end up in an emergency room, pays for stuff. So I'll keep you abreast on what's going on. I'll be back in about a month and we'll go over all this stuff.
Thank you so much, David, for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
Appreciate you. If you need answers to difficult legal issues, David's got you covered. Connect with him on Facebook and Twitter at Today's Verdict and tune in to Today's Verdict Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m. right here on BronxNet TV. We have to take a quick break, but we'll be back with more Open right after this.
Open up your books to page 360.
Did you just look at your phone while you was in class? You played yourself.
Talking about inspirational quotes.
You gotta believe in yourself. Don't ever play yourself. The key is to make it, so make it.
Louise, can you give me an example of an inspirational quote?
Don't play yourself. The key is to make it.
And who said that?
I did. Now that's a major key alert.
Learn the real major keys to getting to college at getschool.com.
Patriotism. It inspires passionate debate. It's worn like a badge of honor with good reason, because it means love and devotion for one's country. But what really makes up this country of ours? It's the people. To love America is to love all Americans. This year, patriotism shouldn't just be about pride of country. It should be about love. Love beyond age, sexuality, disability, race, religion, and other labels. Because love has no labels.
Thank you for staying with us. Radical Health is a Bronx-based women-owned social enterprise seeking to combine meaningful conversations with the community and teach health equity. In September, they will be holding a conversation series in Mott Haven concerning the opioid crisis. Here to share more is Stacy Cabezas, head of programming at Radical Health. I hope I said your name correctly,
yes,
right?
Yes,
all right,
thank
so
you.
tell us a little bit about your event that's coming up in September, and what does that involve?
Sure. So on September 7th, we'll be hosting a community conversation series around substance use, addiction, and overdose in the community of Mott Haven, which is a community that I hold near and dear to my heart. I'm from Mott Haven, and we're going to be inviting our community members to come into the space and have a safe space to talk about what substance use and overdose means to them and their family members, and how we can find equal ground to solve the problems that are going on. The Bronx and Mott Haven itself is such a beautiful community, and we want to ensure that we can solve these issues together as a team.
And as you probably know, that the Bronx is the #1 in the whole country, not even just in the city, with opioids, right? So I feel like you are kind of being the voice in the community to combat this. How did you get started with this? And tell us a little bit more about Radical Health.
Sure. So I'd like to say that Radical Health has really changed my life and my perspective. Before I started with Radical Health, I was working at a Harlem-based community organization where we with immigrant children, and we reunited them with their families. So it was meaningful work, and I wanted to bring the meaningful aspects of what I was doing there to my own community. And when I was a kid growing up, I grew up on 143rd Street between Brook and Willis, and I'm happy to say that I had a happy childhood, and my family did really well in shielding me on what was going on in the nitty-gritty. And now that I'm older and I have my own child who's growing up in the same community, I see that I would like to be that agent for change. So what Radical Health really does is combine meaningful conversations with the community and bringing, when we think of healthcare, we think of the doctor, we think of patients, but there are people behind those patients, and those people, we as people, really have a voice, and it may not always be a clinical issue or clinical healthcare. It could be, social determinants. It could be housing. It could be deportation. What are those issues that are affecting our health that may not be in the clinical sense? And that's pretty much what we're trying to accomplish, specifically with substance use in the Bronx.
Mm-hmm. And we were talking before the segment began about a little bit about what happens in these conversations. Just reiterate that.
Sure. So in our conversations, in our event on September 7th, we'll be having it at 11 a.m. It's a Saturday. So we'll be providing lunch and childcare. A lot of times, we have members of the community who want to come out, but who's going to watch the children? I have to provide lunch. We'll be providing all of that for everyone. We're posing it in a way where we're asking questions, and we're having the community give us their responses. What does health mean to you? What does substance use, what does addiction mean to you specifically as a person? What does it mean to you in your community? And afterwards, we're going to also have a naloxone training, a free naloxone training, where we'll be also dispensing naloxone. Naloxone is a nasal spray that can reverse the effects of an overdose in an individual, and it's safe for anyone to use.
Mm-hmm. And then I understand you have, there's an event called, or not an event, but a part called Smoke Sensations.
Oh, smoke cessation, yes.
Is it cessations or sensations?
Cessation.
Cessations,
yes.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, so we're actually hosting conversations as well in the Batanzas, the Batanzas houses, which is also located in Mott Haven. We're having these conversations surrounding smoke cessation. What does it mean in terms of housing? How do you feel about your health within your housing complex, in your home? And we're posing similar questions surrounding those topics.
Mm-hmm. Now, can anyone come to this event? Is it, a way that we could sign up, or how do we get this information?
Sure. So anyone can come. It's free for the entire community of Mott Haven. You can sign up on there is an Eventbrite page, and also through our website, radical-health.com. In our events page, you'll see Mott Haven Meets, and at the bottom there will be a link.
What does the future look like for Radical Health and your future in Radical Health? What do you want to continue doing? Do you want to continue having more of these conversations?
Of course, yes. We definitely want to continue to have conversations around all aspects of health. We want to talk about substance use. We want to talk about housing. We want to talk about job security. We're also in the future going to be launching an app around maternal health called Radical Relay, and that should be coming up soon.
That's right. And what is that app about? Where can we download it? I guess the App Store, correct?
Yeah, so you can download it on iOS and Android, the app stores. The app itself is about maternal care. So Black and brown pregnant people who may have questions about how can I make an appointment? Is this procedure necessary? I'd like a second opinion. So it acts as a know your rights / nurse in your pocket, and it's a chat bot, so you can ask questions and it uses natural language to answer you. If it can't answer you, it'll link you to a peer.
That's so interesting. Instead of having to go to the I shouldn't say to the doctor, but calling your doctor up, your provider, you could just text an app.
Yes.
How interesting. Well, thank you so much, Stacey, and just give your information one more time.
Sure. So you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at WeAreRadHealth. You can also find us on Facebook at Radical Health. And you can find our website, www.radical-health.com.
All right. Thank you so much, Stacey, for joining us.
Thank you very much.
The Mott Haven Meets Conversation series will be taking place on Saturday, September 7th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at St. Mary's Recreational Center located at 450 St. Anne's Avenue, room number 4263. For more information, visit radical-health.com. You can also email them at hello@radical-health.com and follow them on Instagram. We are Rad Health. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back right after this. Thank you for staying with us. Creators of the Hood, Koth, is a management company for underserved artists in the Hood, seeking to provide one-of-a-kind experiences and opportunities and spaces for creatives. They've got an event coming up this Sunday for New York City-based artists and creatives. Here to discuss the initiative and upcoming event is B. Rogers, founders of Creators of the Hood, aka Koth. Hi, B. Thank you for joining us.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Now, this really caught my eye. Why is it called Creators of the Hood, and what is this about?
Okay, yeah. So basically, I received my master's in fine arts in 2017, and I was creating. I had a job, and it was also I was also trying to get shows and trying to get grants. But doing all of that at the same time was super difficult. And I realized I wasn't really landing anything when it comes to the arts foundations that are uptown and in the Bronx. And a part of me feels like it's because my art is very hood. It's not like Picasso or Cubism, and I feel that hood artists are underrepresented and underserved. So I figured I'd create that. I figured if I'm struggling with that, then many artists are struggling with that in the hood.
And by hood, what do you mean? Like, where did you grow up, and what does that mean for you when you say the hood?
Yeah, so I grew up all over the Bronx. My family was racing with the landlords, moving to see what's cheaper. And in all of those neighborhoods, I also had to go to different schools. And in none of those schools did I receive an art class. And all of those schools were in the hood. I got an art class in kindergarten that I barely remembered. So that's what I mean by the hood. I guess impoverished, poverty neighborhoods, pretty much.
I understand. How does Koth seek to support creatives in the hood?
Yeah,
I like saying that.
So there's three things that we're focusing on: is the studio, social media marketing, and courses and talks. Right now, we are in the works of remodeling. It's about a 3,000 square foot basement for. It's going to be a co-working space for creators, because we in the hood, we barely have space to live in our apartments, let alone to create. I remember when I was living with my mom in the Bronx, actually, I loved spray paint, but she was not having it in the house. So
spray painting her walls.
So yeah, we're creating those spaces for artists to actually create, for artists to learn what they need to express themselves, and yeah, providing those resources.
Now, what is the Paid in Full event?
Okay, so the Paid in Full event is AKA Shmoney Market. We put together a group of 9 artists to vend their art, whatever that means. So there's people vending toys that they've made. There are people vending food that they created. And that's happening on Sunday, this Sunday coming up. It's a free event, and pretty much the concept of Paid in Full, I don't know if you know the track by Rakim and Eric B. Rakim talks about how he doesn't have any money, but he doesn't want a job. He wants to do what he loves and get paid. So pretty much the Paid in Full event is doing that for the artists in the hood, right? All these artists, they spent their hard-earned money and time creating all of these things, but there's nowhere for them to sustain themselves off of that. So yeah, it's just a market for artists of the hood. It's also about reclaiming your labor power, because when you're an artist, you don't have a guaranteed paycheck, right? But it's a lot of work. So, you know, events like Paid in Full, we had other events in the past, but events like Paid in Full allows artists to reclaim their labor power.
And does that go into like the affordable spaces, art spaces as well?
Yeah, so the Paid in Full event is in the backyard of our studio space on Dykeman Street. Yeah, pretty much.
I know that it's really hard for artists to, you know, live in the Bronx, just like you were saying, you know, because it's kind of like on a need, you know, if they sell art or anything kind of basis. What do you think needs to be done to help artists in the Bronx?
What needs to be done? So much. So much. Like I said earlier, we don't even have art classes. And I always knew I was an artist, even if I didn't have an art class.
I would spend my history class drawing on people because you can never kill the creativity of an artist. So what the hood needs, everything. We need spaces, we need resources, materials. We need, it's a desert, it's an art desert, the hood. So
art desert.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. What space are you building for Koth?
So the space is it's kind of like a WeWorks for artists, where artists will get to use. We have material for silkscreen, heat press. Like a lot of people like to make shirts these days. We also have a woodwork shop. We have space for sculpture. We have material for photo development. So all of that is going to be in the 3,000 square foot space where people can come in, creators can come in and use the space simultaneously together.
And this is called the Lab?
Yeah, it's called the Lab.
Okay,
yeah.
And when is it opening?
2020. It was supposed to be open later this year, but we want to do it right. So it'll be open most likely February 2020.
All right, and how can people get in touch with you and learn more about that?
All right, the best way to get in touch with Koth would be the Instagram right now, Create the Hood, @CreateTheHood. The link for the event is there, but I believe we might be sold out of tickets.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you, appreciate it. But the link is there, and yes, @CreateTheHood.
All right, well, thank you so much, B, for joining us.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Paid in Full will be taking place on Sunday, September 1st from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. For more information and how to register, visit Create the Hood on Instagram. Stay tuned for more Open right after this.
How can I help my daughter with her reading?
Searching for help with Dachshund reading.
No.
Let me try. Sarah's bright, but when she's reading, she has trouble sounding out words.
Playing world music.
What?
I give up.
Wait, I was trying to show you how Sarah feels every day. Frustrating, isn't it? Redirecting to understood.org.
Join parents and experts at understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues to help your child thrive.
Well, Thomas, you've got prediabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon, too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have prediabetes. Big time.
I'll never forget the day our landlord called and said, read your lease. No pets allowed. My owner tells him my dog ate the lease, but that didn't work. And now I'm stuck in a shelter. But this pit bull is ready for a new crib. I'm loving, loyal, and play well with others. So don't be intimidated by all my muscles, because the biggest one I have is my heart. That's right, I said it.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Welcome back. Our next guest is an author and artist who touches upon taboo topics in his works, who also raises mental health awareness and publishes titles such as Stolen Sanity and Tales of My Skin. Here to share more about this work and celebrating African and the world culture, author and artist Biodun Abudu. All right, make sure you say your name correctly because I feel like I messed your name up. What was it again?
Biodun Abudu.
Okay, and so these are two of your works that you've published.
Yes.
That you have published. Congratulations on
Thank
that.
you.
Right, and I also know that you're from Chicago.
Yes.
I'm from
Yes.
Chicago.
Yes.
Now talk a little bit about your first book.
So Stolen Sanity talks about hardships with the character named Funke. It's a true life story. It gives you an insight on, you know, topics as deep as rape, family neglect, religious topics as well that a lot of people don't want to speak about because, you know, in most African countries, you know, the pastor is always right. You have to do it the right way. We have to pray the stubbornness out of you. So it talks about things like that. And it also talks about things that women go through, whether it's postpartum and not being supported by family members. It also touches on things as far as, like they say, an absent father is as bad as a toxic mother. So these are things that I talk about.
And this is from a true story.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes. So it's someone that I knew, and I wrote her story, things that I could relate to as well, some of the topics. So I find interest in writing.
Right. And then tell us a little bit about your second book.
Okay. So the second one is Tales of My Skin.
Okay.
It talks about online addiction, sexual addiction. You know, there's no one really, especially in the LGBTQ community, there's no one really guiding us to say, like, this is the right place to look for love. There's not really a lot of events where people are doing dating, and we find ourselves looking for love in the wrong places, which is online. You know, for example, the character, which is a true life story, finds himself looking for love with someone who's already married, someone who's in the closets. He finds himself looking for love, traveling across the country to someone who he's never met before, putting himself in danger.
Why did you feel the importance to write these stories?
There are also things that I've battled with myself. So the relation is there. I could relate to the person who the book was on. So I was passionate about writing it. These are things that we don't really speak about. And I really do feel like, especially in the LGBTQ community, that, you know, a lot of people, I mean, we celebrate marriage, but we also should be talking about how only a few of us only get married, while there's a huge percentage of people who don't even get married. They don't even know how to commit, and they don't even know where to start dating. You know, these are things that we have to also speak about.
And from what I understand, you are Nigerian. How does your culture relate in both of the books?
Both characters actually are Nigerian. So being that I did my high school back there, I was able to experience some of the things that they faced. I had a friend or two that were forced into marriage at the age of 11, who I've never seen ever since then. So these are things that I've seen myself personally. And the men are always right. The women can never speak up for themselves. A lot of single mothers go through a lot and are still criticized. Even when it comes to kids talking to a pastor, like, you know, my parents are doing this to me. They, you know, use a heel to hit me, and the child is only 3 or 4. The pastor will be like, well, what did you do? Let's pray the stubbornness out of you. And these are not things that kids should be hearing. They should be, you know, the pastor should be questioning the parents, like, you know, about their actions towards the kids.
And when someone reads, or after someone reads this book, what do you want them to reflect on?
I want them to reflect on themselves, because a lot of people need some kind of motivation to go out and talk to someone. A lot of people harbor things within themselves, and it's because of fear, or they just don't know how to approach someone and speak about what's bothered them, whether they've been raped. And for example, in our culture, there's not really, in Nigeria, there's not really a lot of avenues where a lot of people who have been raped can talk to someone about it, or centers where someone can speak to them about it. And in the book, it also tells people, like, especially people who don't believe in therapists, because especially the character, she doesn't believe in therapists because, I should say, if she's speaking to a therapist, she wants to make sure it's someone that understands where she's coming from. You know, she doesn't want someone who's just paid to nod their head and say, yes, I understand, when they really don't understand what has happened. They haven't experienced it themselves. So when they read this book, I want them to be able to, like, speak to the nearest person who's going to hear them and start, you know, the different ways for them to find redemption.
And you're an artist.
Yes.
Is this your artwork?
The first one, for both of them, actually, I kind of just sketched it out. I'm not really good with graphics, so I do have 2 friends that helped me out. Henry, he's on Instagram, I am Blankface. He helped me out to bring out the end quality here. So I usually just sketch it out, tell them exactly what I want, where I want the heart, where I want the cross, and they do it exactly like that.
We're gonna show some of your artwork, and then if you can kind of just tell us, so this artwork that's playing right now, where did you come up with the idea? And
So this artwork, I called it Lane. It means behind in Yoruba, in Nigeria. So this actually talks about women who, you know, they're raising their kids, they're working every day, they're, you know, doing their best to be seen in the community. And part of why I called it Lane is that there's something behind their smiles, whether it's pain, whether they've overcame something. So this is something that the artwork talks about.
This is so beautiful.
Thank you.
And I'm sure this is cultural. All of these are cultural.
Yes, and you know, just admiring the female body, respecting it, and celebrating it.
Mm-hmm. Why use these type of like images and the dots? And I see that they have like circles. And what is that?
I am obsessed with the History Channel, so I watch a lot of like ancient aliens and things about pyramids and temples. So I got obsessed with how they used to draw on the walls back then in the caves. So that's where I got a lot of my inspiration from. So that's why you see a lot of those black silhouettes and dots, especially with this one, the Last Supper, especially with the inscriptions on the background. So there's like the Egyptian hieroglyphics, and this is just paying homage to women. I feel like women are not really spoken about a lot, especially when it comes to the Bible individuals. You know, we hear about David, Joseph. We don't hear about a lot of women, so that's why I switched it up and made it her Last Supper.
Wow. So please tell us where we can find you and what any events or upcoming tours or anything that you have coming up.
I have a lot of book signings here and there. I speak a lot at colleges. The best way to keep updated with the events I do are on my Instagram, Biodun Abudu, or on my website. But mainly my Instagram, I update it on Facebook as well, and on Twitter, the same name, Biodun Abudu. My novels are on Amazon and also at Barnes & Nobles.
All right, and so you can buy these on Amazon?
Yes.
All right,
yes.
Well, I will definitely check it out. Thank you so
Thank
much
you so
for joining
much.
us.
Thank you.
To find out more about Biodun, to check out his recent work, visit his website at biodunabudu.com and follow Biodun Abudu on Instagram. Don't go anywhere. More open right after this.
$150/90.
180 over 111.
160 over 110. I had a stroke.
This is what high blood pressure looks like. You might not feel its symptoms, but the results from a stroke are far from invisible or silent. If you've come off your treatment plan, get back on it or talk with your doctor to create an exercise, diet, and medication plan that works for you. Go to loweryourhbp.org.
If I would have followed a treatment plan, I would not be in this situation.
How can I help my daughter with her reading?
Searching for help with Dachshund breeding.
No.
Let me try. Sarah's bright, but when she's reading, she has trouble sounding out words.
Playing world music.
What?
I give up.
Wait, I was trying to show you how Sarah feels every day. Frustrating, isn't it? Redirecting to understood.org.
Join parents and experts at understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues to help your child thrive.
For all the papas out there, let's stop what we're doing and take a moment. A moment to be with our kids. They can be loud moments, goofy moments, sporty moments, dorky moments, kooky moments. Moments where we talk or walk or just hang out. It doesn't really matter. They all count because every time dads take a moment to be with their kids, well, it's pretty momentous. So let's all take a moment to make a moment today.
Welcome back. Women of Concern Professionals in Strategic Consciousness Networking, or WOCPSCN, an organization that provides support and recognizes the needs of their community. They've got an upcoming healing talk session titled Women at the Well and Domestic Violence Solidarity Walk coming soon. Here to share more about WOCPSCN and their upcoming events is Loretta Green Williams. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us. Thank you so very much.
Right. So you are the co-founder, correct? Or are you the founder?
Founder.
You're the founder?
I'm the founder,
okay.
yes.
Now tell us a little bit about this and why is this important? Why is this organization important right now?
WOCPSCN importance and impact is because we're able to combine business thought with community design. And the purpose behind that, because to empower a community needs economic sustainability. That level of sustainability can come from the development and understanding of how to create it. We have these nuances in our community that sometimes get overlooked by large businesses. We have and we provide opportunity for those collaborative efforts to come forward, bringing together corporate with community to create levels of community solidarity.
And the name is quite interesting because the acronyms are very long.
Yes.
Why name it that?
Actually, the organization started on LinkedIn in 2009. Women of Concerned Professionals, because we were a group of women that were concerned about what was happening in our society and in community. Strategic Conscious Networking, because we want to consciously think about what we do. So nothing is done arbitrarily, but is thought through from the construct of what the results are to come years from now. Not from now, but for futuristic plans.
That's so important because I think a lot of people, especially millennials, we think about the now. And a lot of people in their 20s think about just now. They don't really think about outside of. So were you thinking of that when you first created that?
Absolutely. When you go on our website, you'll see that we have these different components that we address certain issues for certain populations. And we have something called Jazzy J's, where we actually have a mentoring program for young women 35 and under that are in business relationships. The reason being is because as a child coming up, we had older women that helped to mentor us through. And I'm noticing that mentoring relationship has lost its way. So we're bringing that back.
And can you talk a little bit about your personal experiences and why you came up with this?
Well, the Walking in Silence for the Silence, Domestic Violence Solidarity Walk started in 2013 in California, and it was my cry in response to the loss of my daughter. She died 2001 of domestic violence. Her boyfriend shot her in the heart, and she died 35 minutes after that. And there was no place to take this pain. There was no place to develop it. There was no place to release it. It took me a while to create something, but through the organization, I spoke with the ladies. I said, we need to do something. I need to do something because every year when she tried to walk away from this relationship, it embodies my body and I can't release it. What can I do? Thus the walk. The reason why it's 8 o'clock in the morning, because statistics shows that first thing in the morning is when women have more accessibility of leaving their environment.
Now, why is that?
Because usually the man's at work, usually it's a quiet time. If the house is still, the community is still quiet, there's a revelation of escapism. And so you just pick up and you go. So that's the reason for the first thing in the morning. And because we're creating a solidarity with the women, men, children that are engaged in this horrible, horrific relationship, what it actually does is allow them to release that pain, because you are in a very difficult situation. You're getting up and you're at the park 8 o'clock in the morning. It's cold. But you imagine someone that has to leave their home with no clothing and just have to leave with maybe the clothes on their back, the circumstances they go through.
Talk a little bit about the Women at the Well event.
Women at the Well established because when I was living in California, there was a friend of mine that said, I have so many stories and I don't know how to tell them. And I'm going, wow. So we created through the organization Women of African Diaspora Griots to give women an opportunity to speak their story, to speak their truth. We created the Women at the Well because that's a gathering place. We know that it is, from a cultural perspective, globally, it's the women that sustain and secure the family. And the creation of sustainability is what? Water. So we're saying a twofold thing now. We know about the situation with the water crisis that's going on now, even in our own communities. Look at Newark, for example. So we're looking at how we as women come together under a collective relationship of culture, water, the well, and then tell our stories. So what we're doing in Harlem was we're creating a venue where young women can come together and tell their stories. And we're doing it through a vision board.
Mm-hmm. Now, the organization's tagline is very interesting to me. It provides support and recognize. Where did you get that from and why?
Because it's a need.
Mm-hmm.
There was just a need. There are so many in the community that's doing these due diligence. They're doing this hard work, but nobody is giving them the response that they need, the support that they need. So what our organization does is we don't come and create, we help support what is already there. So what we say is we help to support economic sustainability. That's why we are the umbrella for other organizations that need that additional support. We create that connection for you too.
When you say economic sustainability, I'm sorry, what does that mean?
It means that there is collective cohesionness of funding, of economic growth, that if you can put this money together with this money, we can create a design that will help all of us in the engaged relationship. So with that economic sustainability, there might be funding here, but they may not be able to connect with funding over here because they may not have that link. What we do is we help to establish that link for them so they can actually acquire the funding here to attach to the funding here, so then there's a larger group of funding to get the task done. For example, a lot of church organizations have projects and funding that is there, but they don't know how to reach out to the community. There's a lot of nonprofit organizations that may not know how to reach out to corporate organizations. We have, because of the women that are engaged with us, know how to do that, thus developing that economic sustainability.
It's like you all help each other.
Exactly.
It's just helping each other. Well, thank you so much, Loretta, for coming.
Thank you.
How can people get involved and volunteer?
WOCPSCN.com. You can also find it on Eventbrite. It is November 2nd at Morningside Park in Harlem, 8 o'clock a.m. And we're looking forward to having everyone to be with us.
Thank you so much for joining
Thank you.
us. All right. To find out more and register for any of these two events you see on the screen, Women at the Well and Walking Silence for Silence, visit WOCPSCN.com and click register and make a difference. We've come to the end of our show today. I'd like to thank all our guests for joining us and you, the viewers, for tuning in. If you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the cablecast at 5 and 10 p.m. on Optimum Channel 67 and Verizon Fios 33, or watch anytime on the web at bronxnet.org. That wraps it up for us here on the set of Open. I'm Dorissa White. Make sure to keep this channel wide open and take care and stay positive.
Behold the angry giant. Behold the angry giant. Behold the angry giant. Behold the angry giant.
It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.